Welcome, one and all, boys, girls, dads, moms, babies, everybody.
Golden Guardians,
Golden Guardians, 100 Thieves,
ex-Golden Guardian fans.
Team Liquid people who are here because they want to be us so bad.
Ooh. Hey, I hope some of their fans have shown up to take notes so they can start their own average fan podcast. I'm just saying.
100 Talk is back.
Oh, it's a new season, Cole.
A new season. So I have to mention this. We were just, patiently waiting to begin the show. Just kind of vibing to Ace of Base like I am on most days.
Yeah.
When Papa Smithy in chat calls me out saying, not sure Cole saw the signs in his roster rundown a few months ago, that hurts, especially on the night that the banner is back.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Put the banner up.
Cole.
My
goodness. Should I just take it down?
Glad. I don't know if he's just attributing that to you because you hold the 100 Talk accounts. But I will also attribute some of that to myself. I don't know if I was fully convinced early. Feeling a little different now.
Little different, but it is week one.
Week one. No overreactions. Nothing.
Yeah, we haven't gone in on a full 100 Talk yet in the year 2021. So we'll do what we always do, which is disclaim. Here is the disclaimer. It's the first week of the lock-in tournament. So we're going to be drawing a lot of general conclusions here that may be a little irresponsible because that's more fun to do.
Yeah.
But we'll try our best as your dads. We will try our best to tell you the truth about things. Yeah. And we're going to have to temper that excitement. So everybody buckle in for a wonderful night where we discuss what was a kind of weird, but mostly pretty dang good first week of League of Legends, professional League of Legends played by 100 Thieves.
Yeah. Before we do so, Cole, should we pop open a beverage?
100 Talk is powered by Rip It, the only good tasting energy drink in the world. That's why we drink it. I do not have one at my disposal right now. And we don't do the ASMR moments on 100 Talk, but
nope.
Jordan's going to pop one anyway. In honor of Lo-Fi Avocado. Lo-Fi Avocado. Lo-Fi Avocado. Popping off with the subscription. Thank you for the 6 months. All right. So while Jordan pours that all over his bone hoodie, let's start talking about the week that was. So TSM, setting the stage for TSM is kind of weird, right? Because they have made a few changes. You might have heard of their former mid laner, who is no longer playing for them anymore. Who is now coaching them to certain defeat. Not leading them quite as well as he was when he was on the Rift. But the addition of Sword Art, something they also potentially a little scary.
Another player. I don't know if you'd heard of Double Lift.
I wasn't even going to mention him.
Okay. I see that.
I only mentioned notable things. So
yes, they added Sword Art.
Sword Art, added Huni. Lost stepped in to fit into the size 7.5s left behind. And
below average shoe
size. It was kind of hard to get a read on what TSM was going to be. And it's still pretty hard to get a read of what TSM is going to be. But honestly, like on paper going into it, I was like, this is a nice first test, right? This is a nice like first experience for the someday Guardians. The game itself was not competitive, shall we say? It was over quickly. It was a destruction, and it really begins with the draft. Now, I am so skeptical of draft overreactions, as you guys all know. Drafting is always really easy to point to when you lose, as a coach criticism. sometimes it feels like we're just doing a little bit much and trying to find blame. When I saw this draft, I was like, okay, besides the Xayah pick, TSM's draft like looked a little more like what I had been seeing out of like LCK LPL. But our draft was clearly built different.
Yeah.
it was way different. It was strong to the point where Bjergsen actually like tweeted out that was like coach diff, right? What did he say? Like something about like how he clearly lost the draft and he apologized for it. That's exactly what happened. Jordan, what was your favorite pick for 100 Thieves in this draft?
So many places we could go, and this will become apparent as we talk about this team, just that there's so many things to like in any one game, right? But I think if I had to pick one, it's the Taliyah for me. It was so strong and so decisively ended fights on both sides of the map, top side, bot side. And as we saw over the course of the weekend, Taliyah is busted, straight busted. Like, and here's the thing I always think about Taliyah. Every time people start playing her again, I'm like, her ult is not different. It's always been the same ult, but it's so good right now. I get it. Like the meta is very favorable. She's been tuned well. The item changes are in her favor. Like there's a lot going on there. That champ is too good. So I was glad to see us ban her because when we didn't against CLG, it hurt a lot. So anyway, I think that was my favorite pickup for us and one that really put Closer on display and just how he likes to play to both sides of the map. Really, I mean, it was exciting stuff.
Yeah, I have to put in a word for Damonte's Twisted Fate actually. So there was towards the end of the game. In fact, it might have been the last team fight when we were in base. He hit a gold card for like half health. It was so nasty, but he was doing like lots of ulting in, flashing, and stun, and the team was so ready to synergize with what he was doing, which was, I think, like, you know, this is kind of like an obvious thing to say, right? With the fact that we're picking up 4/5 of an existing team that had a reasonably good thing going for them before. We saw them kind of, you know, on the same page from the very start, which is an advantage that we're going to have early on that will wear off throughout the split. But certainly right now, it's obviously paying dividends. And that was one of those. Like he would land those stuns, and everybody would be ready with follow-up CC and damage. And seeing everybody so aggressive, so built up with the firepower, as we're calling it this year. That was.
I was hoping you were going to say it. I was going to say that you didn't say it.
Yeah.
But.
I think that was like the most notable thing for me from the whole match was just watching the synergy in aggression, right?
You said something I want to pick up on, which is, and this is after this game, right? That was the takeaway from this game, this TSM game. Everybody said, wow, this is the difference having a gelled roster brings to you. And it was on clear display. Like the TSM team is completely different, right? Are there any holdovers? Spica is the only returning member,
Spica.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but here's my question for you, right? It's not like this Golden Guardians team has been playing together for 3 years and they're as good as they're going to be, right? Like the 4 people from that roster, they finished the split 9-9. This doesn't look like a 9-9 team right now. They're going to get better. They are going to continue to get better. This is not as good as they'll be. And someday we'll make that ceiling even higher because he's going to unlock new play styles for them, new opportunities, you know, Closer, and someday is going to be super fun to watch as the split goes. I will be interested to see not if people catch up to us, but what do we do to keep that distance between us and the others who are still trying to gel, right? Like if for sure is our competitive advantage right now, or one of them, like we have multiple, how do we, and I think that we will, I fully expect that we will continue to find ways to bring new looks, to diversify our strategy book, to be that much harder to prepare for. Like, I don't think we're going to just sit around and wait for people to catch up to us, you know?
I hope that's the case. I mean, one of the things that we saw, so it really felt like last split, Golden Guardians found the groove like right into playoffs, right? Like
Playoff,
just right at the right time.
playoff buff.
But one of the things that happened was, when other teams kind of shut down Damonte's champ pool in the draft, there was a problem for them, so we'll have to see how much of a limitation that still is, because while, he, like you're saying, this is a relatively new team, so to speak. Well, relative is actually kind of a misleading word, because there's so much changeover between all the teams. This year especially, it feels like there's just so much different. So even having a one split team, like that's what we're talking about. Like we have pre-built synergy because we're one of the few teams that has a core that's the same. So when I say relatively, that's actually kind of misleading. But you know what I'm saying. So back to Damonte, the champ pool thing is not like going to be a new thing for him to solve. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm not trying to project all the way down the line.
No.
Right now. And we'll talk more about Damonte later in the show, especially. But like I see your point that it's not necessarily they got to this point with Golden Guardians and now everybody's just going to do this while they go straight.
Right.
I see what you mean. But there's still going to be some work to do there.
I think these other teams will start to pull it together. Like they're not going to be a shambles the entire split. I don't expect that they'll all be really struggling. Like I think some of these teams were just struggling, right? That they'll quickly make up that difference, I expect.
Yeah.
The players are too good to really continue at that rate, in my opinion.
Now, can we talk about Huhi coming back to the team? Because that's something where I think, so for people who may not have been with us forever, our thing is really, we're not very like smart about League of Legends at all, right? Like we're not experts about the game and the strategy. But we do feel like we have a good feel for what it's like to be a 100 Thieves fan. And that's kind of the perspective that we speak from and that we speak to. And so taking that angle on Huhi, when he was with the team previously, I think he was well liked the entire time. I don't think there's anybody that like didn't like him, right? But despite some pretty awesome plays, including a couple game-winning plays for us in mid lane, it just didn't work out for us. So I think when Huhi left the team, everybody was fine with it, right? It was like, okay, that's a needed change.
Right. Well, and I think reinforced by the fact that he actually did a position swap, a role swap after he left, right? That's all a confirmation you need. It's not like he went 1-to-1 to a different team and then found a ton of success. Like he swapped roles and he started to grind academy straight away. So I think it's one of those things that's just well agreed on that's what was needed at that time.
Yeah. And so having him role swap and then come back, like I think especially after seeing just how good he looked with FBI, I think there's near universal excitement about that, right? And having him back so far, just these 3 games that we're talking about, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I really liked watching him play this weekend, and it felt good to have him back, because he's someone who's easy to root for as a person, I feel like. He got like all the assists against TSM. He was on the set and he was doing such a good job of landing the right CC and just interrupting people's escapes and stuff like that. Like it was the
number of times he came sprinting out of the fog. It must have felt horrible as that player. Well, and I think a lot of times, right, it's just like you're kind of strolling through your jungle, nobody in vision, and then suddenly you see Huhi, right? Surprise, and he jumps out, and suddenly you are flying through the air backwards, and it turns out that there are 2 carries waiting for you. You're dead before you hit the ground or shortly after. It was almost uncanny. Like I think the thing I tweeted at the time was, it seems like if he engages anywhere on the same half of the map, FBI is able to take advantage of that so quickly, right? Like the closing speed on that is insane. And this TSM game is just a showcase for that champion. CLG, different story. I'm not putting that on Huhi, but like it's not an automatic win if we get him on set, obviously. But when it's working, man, it is it is scary, and that's he plays that champion really well.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's hold off on CLG for just a little bit longer and focus on TSM. As I mentioned, it ended up being a stomp. I mean, by 20 minutes or so, I think we were up 11K gold.
Yeah.
TSM got 1 kill during the whole game and 0 turrets. So it was actually very close to a perfect game. Though, if I'm I don't actually have it in my notes, but if I'm recalling right, they actually were even with dragons, I believe.
Baron picked up a kill. Oh,
no,
sorry,
no, dragons. They took I think they took a couple dragons and we took a couple.
I thought you were talking total kills because Baron was even
because Baron chipped in on Hui.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a very, very dominant performance from us, which you'd like to see out of the gate. Like after a long pause and a long preparation period, you want to see a team who has a plan and is ready to execute on that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, and by the way, and just because we're back at this again this year, I'll just say, we don't typically like read out chat or anything while we do this. But I did see Tom Shu says TSM just doesn't look coordinated at all yet. And I think that's true. I think they do look scrambled and everything. But as we've mentioned before, being able to capitalize and punish is always something that you look for out of a group of guys, and we did that. We had the plan. We took the opportunities that presented themselves. And so like preparation going in felt awesome to me. At least with TSM. So this was never really in doubt. It never really was a game. They got their 1 kill like right away in that, skirmish up top, I think where we came away 2-1 in kills. And then they never threatened again, basically. So
someday discouraged that.
Yeah.
Heavily.
So awesome.
And it's worth saying too, like they looked bad in a lot of the ways that we looked good, right? Like there's definitely that's a consideration. How bad does a team look? A team can look really bad while another team looks really good. Some of these games, the teams just look really bad, and it makes it hard for their team to actually show up in a way that's impressive.
Yeah.
What I'll say is this, though. They ended the weekend 2-1, right? Like, they are capable of beating teams. It took a lot to get there.
It did, yeah.
It took a lot for TSM to get there, so I wouldn't say that they should feel fine. But it's a team of talented players, right? Like they have a lot of talent and they've spent a lot of money on this roster. So if it does feel very good for us to pick up this win, it feels like a quality win, in no small part because of how we came by it, right? We looked dominant. It was not a close game. To your point, we came out with a plan, we executed on it, and we played to our strengths. And we'll coach diff too, right? Like it feels good to see that as well.
Yeah. Erdoros, that's just a fluke. Wow. Oh, we're going to cross over esports with the fluke thing. I'm down. I'm totally here for that. Okay. But here's the thing. So let's transition into CLG. Cause I talked about how happy I was with the preparation to go to the TSM game. CLG, I don't know why. But I knew that this would happen. I knew 100% that what happened would happen. And maybe it's just the like sixth sense that 100T fans are developing, through the years. But I tweeted out I think a couple hours before the start of the game, me realizing this is about to be the ultimate trap game. And it really was, because CLG looked absolutely terrible and lost in their first 2 games. They got destroyed. They barely looked. I don't even think they looked like an LCS team.
Right.
And we felt so great after stomping TSM. And, I think I titled this stream equal parts 100 Thieves, equal parts Golden Guardians. And this is where the 100 Thieves part of that equation really is for me. Like, there's just going to be games that go this way where we should win and we disappoint when people are about to form an opinion of us. And we'll talk about this later too. But it's just the lock-in tournament. But people are taking this pretty seriously when it comes to evaluating teams. Like that feeling is out there, right? And if we win CLG and we as we did win our 3rd game, and we're sitting at 3-0, like people are going to take us very, very seriously. But because we are 100 Thieves, we must uphold our legacy of throwing a game that we shouldn't lose. And so that's exactly what happened here. I don't know why. Jordan, am I crazy? I sniffed it out.
No, you have here. Here's the other thing you didn't say, right? For new viewers or listeners, look, Cole and I we are newer to the esports scene. At this point, we've watched as long as 100 Thieves has been a team. So we're as new to the esports scene as 100 Thieves is. But we've watched a lot of sports over the course of our life. You can spot a trap game from a mile off. You've seen enough different teams fall into them in enough different sports to see it well before it arrives. And that's what this was. Like, what can we learn from this, right? I think one of the things I picked up is, okay, CLG was probably if you just look at the names of the players on paper, there's no reason that team should be performing worse than a team of all rookies, right? Like that team has probably more LCS games between them than maybe any other, honestly. They got some, okay, Turtle, Smoothie.
I'd have to think. You might be right.
Solo, who has a lot. I think Griffin is maybe their new guy. Anyhow, they got so yeah, this is beside the point. But here's the thing. It's a trap game, right?
Yeah.
Like, those guys, they have the ability to play a smart game. And I think that's what they did. They did a really good job neutralizing Hui, who had just popped off on set the day before. He was out of the game. He couldn't play the game. And I think I asked what could we take from this? What I took from this is we cannot just face roll through teams, right? Like, it's not going to be that kind of a split. There will be teams that we do that with, but I think that even in a game where we're kind of outmatched and the other team has a plan that counters ours really well, like, there'll be games we lose, right? We're not going to be C9 last year before they fell off. And that's fine. We don't need to be that to have fun and to enjoy this team. But that's the kind of game we saw, and that's kind of what I took from it. How about you?
Yeah, there's one. Let me say a couple things before I get to like one of the lessons I think that we can get from this game. There wasn't, for me, one particular moment where we started to lose this game or anything. Like, we just started losing fights like a little bit at a time, and then it like, I wouldn't call it a snowball because it didn't just like completely run away, but it was like a slow leak or something, right? Yeah. Where we just started losing the fights, and we started losing them by a little bit more and a little bit more until we couldn't really be competitive. And after like a quite good start, to be honest.
Yeah, we were up.
So it was kind of
15, I think.
It was kind of weird. But there were a couple things that I was kind of thinking about as I watched it unfold. One is FBI's aggression. So so far, I'm absolutely in love with FBI. Like,
yes, 100%.
I love watching him. I love it. And it feels so different than our previous ADCs. He just wants to kill so much. He wants to kill somebody. And he's really aggressive. He's looking for it like all the time, which is, obviously going to bite you at times. And it did in this game multiple times when he's sitting on a huge CS deficit for most of the game. 60, 70 CS behind for the second half of this game. But he's still looking for the killer instincts, going right in with no hesitation, getting blown up a couple times.
Blowing up Turtle a couple times?
Yeah, he did blow up Turtle.
At least 2 or 3 times,
I think he ulted Griffin in the mid lane. Like, he got in between Griffin and the rest of the team, if I'm remembering right, and just like burned Griffin to pieces and left, which is really cool. So it's just like, here's the thing though. I'm not mad at it at all, because I would rather have someone who's making those plays than who's just to sit and like, oh, okay, yeah, oh no, we're losing. Oh no, we're losing. Well, I better play safe. Maybe that's the low elo player in me speaking. But And I think it was kind of symbolic of the attitude of the rest of the team, because in this game, what you can't say is that they didn't take a few swings at turning the game. Especially the Baron take that led to the end of the game, actually. Tried to sneak away the Baron, tried to burn it down with enough time to spare. Got the Baron, did not win the fight. I think we lost 4 on the fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Someday got out and then got chased down.
Yeah, something like that, right? So, but they knew that at that position of the game, they had to take a drastic action like that to actually do something, and to actually turn the game. Again, I'm not mad at it. So the CLG game was really weird for me, because as disingenuous as it kind of sounds and maybe feels, I do feel like I'm fine writing it off and being like, nothing really happened.
Like, is this
no big deal. Which is really, I don't want to be that selective person. You guys know me. I tend to be on the pessimistic side. I don't want to just be like, hey, look at us when we win. And not acknowledge the loss, but it just didn't seem to feel that meaningful that we lost this game. So, I mean,
it's for me, the thing that gave me a bit of confidence coming out of this, like if there are positive things to take away from it, it's that FBI is tuned to look for the fight and the kill, right? Like that is clearly how he plays this game and how he views every scenario is who can I get and how can I get him? And he does it. He does it consistently, right? In fights that we had already lost, he would get at least a kill, right? He showed up to that. It was the river fight on a Baron or a Drake. I can't remember which one, but Turtle had just cleaned up. And then out of our jungle, here comes FBI and just absolutely deletes him, right? And he's on Kaisa, so he's not getting out of that fight.
Yeah.
But he sees an opportunity and he takes it. And that's just, he did that consistently. And I think the thing that's really promising to me is we never really got into the point in that game where he was inting, right? There was, I think, one kill where he stepped forward. It was going into top lane and he had no chance. But it's because he got popped by a super strong wild turtle, right?
Oh, like they were top side on their side of the map, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Walked into top lane and got instantly deleted. So, but I think his instincts are really good, right? Even in a game where there's so much opportunity for a carry, like he's a glass cannon, right? And for a carry to get taken out, he still managed to keep a positive KDA. Like he still managed to do his job. And there was never a time where it was like, well, there goes FBI. I think there are aggressive players. We think we see them in the jungle more often who have one speed, and it basically, like in certain games, it's an inevitable path to turbo int, right? Like that is the speed they eventually hit. That's all they can do. FBI never got there. Like he was always a threat. He was always smart. And just in a lot of these fights, there's just too much damage potential to actually get in and get out. So I think if we had like our engage tool was gone, right? The who he set that we saw the game before was taken out of that game. So it's kind of up to FBI, right? We had the Orianna Shockwave, which I thought Damonte was good with.
Yeah, I did too, actually.
He did hit a few really good ones,
Mm-hmm.
but it just wasn't enough, right? That's not like, compare that to his Gallia, which we'll get to next, but it's not as reliable. Like that's kind of a fight ending engage. Like you open with it and close with it ideally. So yeah, I feel the same way about FBI. Like I didn't feel concerned at any point. It was just like, yeah, this guy has one speed and he's going to hit it. And hopefully the rest of the team is built and prepared to back him up. And we just couldn't do it in this game.
Yeah. So that leads me to think there are going to be games where this happens, right? Like there's just going to be games where either draft wise or maybe something happens early game where our bot lane's going to be playing from behind, and maybe someday via draft isn't in the best position or whatever, because he was playing like weak side picks all weekend.
He had Renekton, which is not a bad one, but in the same way, like he wasn't tanky enough to withstand a Victor and a Jhin who were built, right? Like that you can't do that.
Yeah. So I wonder if part of the signature of this team, and this is just small sample size, right? That we're talking about this 3 games, but I wonder if like the flip side of the aggression that our team is going to display is just going to be, we're going to have these games where we just fall behind and we never really have much of a shot, or maybe even when we throw. I'm not sure I'd consider this game a throw, even though we did have a lead.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I don't really know, but yeah, I think like there's going to be some level of variance built in because of the aggression.
Yeah,
but especially when it gets to playoffs, and you have 5-game series, I'll roll the dice on stuff like that. I'm kind of okay with it. So anything else on the CLG game before we talk TL?
I think it's in the same way. I think CLG actually played. There was some really good individual play, right? Like, how many times did Jin get a crucial pick with the curtain call, right? Or
a couple of really unlucky ones for us.
Yeah, like one where he basically swerved the bullet around somebody to get guy walking out the
little
back.
Airbender. He's all just
so. Credit where it's due. I think they did a good job. Yeah, what's that movie with that?
Yeah, I forget where they're bending the bullets. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my last thought on that. Is I do think that CLG has the potential to play better than they did in the other 2 games, and I think this is what it looks like when they do.
Yeah. Okay. Team Liquid. So
who?
Team Liquid.
Yep.
We have just the most complicated history with Team Liquid. I would say oh man, it's kind of like tough to explore this territory, right? But like it feels like maybe it's more specific to the 100 Talk community and not so much 100 Thieves, because it doesn't feel like there's this intense rivalry there. But like between 100 Talkers and TL, there's just something, right?
Yeah.
I just feel it in my bones against them, right? And at the same time, they usually win, right?
You also really don't like their jerseys. I'll put that out there.
There's lots of things I don't like about Team Liquid. And they just historically have gotten the advantage over us, even though in the Twitter sphere we've had quite significant dubs over Team Liquid Twitter, which is great. But when it comes to the Rift,
they have been a historically great team since we've been in
since we've been a part of it. Yes, and so this game again, it's lock-in. It's week 1. It's preseason, really. Like, this doesn't really matter, but to me, this is like this was the focus of my weekend. Right, was waiting for the Team Liquid game.
Yeah. Yep.
And we got a quite pleasant game to watch. In fact, we had the opportunity to do a VOD squad together where we watched the game after it happened, because I wasn't able to watch live, and that was a quite enjoyable experience. Another great draft. What about the Lulu pick, dude?
Oh, that was one of my favorite moments. I would love to know who's behind that. I hope in the high suite to see kind of that moment behind the scenes, because it was hovered on Thresh for a long time, up till 5 seconds on the clock, and it was a quick switch to Lulu, which ended up being a huge difference maker.
Yeah, 14 out of 16 assists, his KP 14 out of 16, right? Yeah, that was something.
Yeah,
his timing was great. Like, I don't like the Lulu abilities are always like, I don't know. I don't really like watching Lulu.
No, it's not a super fun champ. I mean, this one was pretty fun to watch, but
you're supposed to be an enabler, and holy crap, was who he enabling. So that was really good.
The last team fight in the base, Olaf gets into the middle of everybody, and the ult, the Lulu ult comes through, and you just see their entire team, right? It's like, what's that game? It's the Popo, like the board with the pieces. The entire TL rust. Yeah, Pop goes perfection.
Popo,
Popo,
pieces jump.
Perfection. Not the most, one-to-one name. But everybody on their team just hit the jump button. It was great.
Yeah.
It looked amazing.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the game.
Yeah, that was it. The other pick, man, and you while we were doing our VOD squad of this, you kept calling this out, the Olaf right?
Mhm.
The Olaf just being able to counter the Lilia sleeps
Oh,
over and
it's
over and over again,
amazing.
it just didn't matter because the just pop Ragnarok and go kill. And geez.
Yeah, that was so effective. I mean, it's like you knew exactly what was coming every time, and he would hit it, and he would just sprint past everybody on their team to the back line, guaranteed at least one kill on a squishy, and yeah, eventually they stopped trying, right? They just didn't even bother. How many times they tried to put him alone to sleep, right? It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
They learned pretty quickly that that just doesn't really work. So
Yeah, so that pick was really fun to watch also. Um and then Damonte on Galio. So
yeah,
I've pointed out that I believe Ryoma has a very good and underrated Galio.
Mhm.
I have to somehow, even though I think by and large the community overrates Damonte, I think somehow his Galio is still underrated. This dude went off.
Yeah.
Looked really, really, really good. Very nice timings. Nice knockups. Nice taunts, man. He was getting like 3 or 4 people on taunts sometimes. It was a game changing pick.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, as we were watching it, right? There were some moments where it was close. I think Galio is one of those champions where it's going to be close, right? There were a couple engages where it wasn't, and those were decisive. But he had a couple of really like edge of the taunt, grab him, bring him
Oh
back,
man, yes, really
and
close.
and I want to be super clear about this. If you get him, it counts. It doesn't matter if it was close or not, right? In my opinion. When you're playing a champ and you have an ability that can apply CC, I don't care if you hit the corner of the hitbox. They got it and you got the kill, so it counts. But it felt a little bit like some of the engages were just a hair short. And I said this during VOD Squad too. So if there's any criticism to be put on there, like I think some of those ults, if they land a little bit closer to the intended target, like the fight ends then, right? So some of these were close. No credit away from him because I think he had a fantastic game. Like he got the interview, he should feel super happy with how that went, and he did. There were a couple fights where it was him alone. Like I'm thinking specifically the one in mid, he flashes in taunts 4. Was it? I think maybe it was a 4. It was at least 3,
I
maybe
know it was
4.
3. It might have been 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and then kind of combos out tactical. I think it was. So, I mean, just crazy stuff from him. And look, I want to talk about. I've been holding this for some time. You can let me know if now's the right time. But his champion pool is something I think we ought to talk about, right? If you want to talk about that now, should I go on
Sure.
to it? Okay. If he's playing on a team, so let's actually talk about Ryoma to transition into this. We recognized, I think, later on in Summer Split last year, that Ryoma was good on Galio, right? And that was like our best look lineup. And eventually he started drawing bans and people, played around it. And that put him back on control mage duty, and it just wasn't as effective.
Yeah.
I don't think you can target Damonte. I don't think you can target Damonte on this team. This team is too good, right?
Do you
We
mean
saw
in
what
the sense
happened.
that like if you target him, you're letting FBI and someday go wild? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like we saw what happened when Olaf made it through, right? You let a champion like that, and right now it's probably a bit of a function of just where the meta stands and how busted some of these champs are in patch 11.1. But you can't throw a TF or Galio ban at Damonte and not expect to get absolutely punished by whatever else makes it through. So I think that right now Damonte is just fine. Like his champion pool is working. He had 3 very effective games. Like his TF was strong, his Galio was great, his Oriana was not as impactful as the other 2, just because that's not really the way that we play. It seems as much. But I'm not super worried about it right now, just because I think our strengths elsewhere. Like, I mean, think about it. You start let's say that at some point we get a busted champ topside. You're gonna let somebody get that, right? Like, you want to give Talia or Olaf to closer or Kaisa, or I'd say Kaisa is probably one I'm most afraid of if I'm playing FBI. But there's all kinds of them, right, that you could potentially see banning. So I feel pretty good about it, to be honest. I'm not too worried about that right now, making us one-dimensional. Um, if there is something that's going to do it, it might be that. But right now, I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I think there's just something different about the fact that now he's in a position where he has carries on opposite side of the map.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where so it's like we see some other teams that'll have, you know, like TSM last year, right? Has double lift Bjergsen, right?
Right.
But they're like next to each other on the map. You've got top lane and bot lane on 100 Thieves that you're going to have serious problems with if you don't have a plan to address, right? And and that's so freeing, I think, like, because you know you force other teams to pick their poison or whatever. And so in that sense, I think you're right that probably a lot of the times Damonte can go maybe overlooked because of the pressing issues, the other problem. But it depends on several factors. I mean, I'm not really smart about this, right? But it's just like, you know, especially if somebody has a tendency to play, you know, to kind of play weak side. Like if we get into that pattern where it's like, okay, FBI is really the guy that we're gonna, you know, dump resources into and prioritize in the draft because we know someday can do whatever. You know, then it's like maybe you can cheat it a little bit. And as was pointed out to me after we did our like off-season roster pod, the weaknesses of Damonte, you know, aside from just like a few key moments, largely the rest of the team was able to play very well and still look like all-star level, you know, like especially the bot lane. So
like
yeah,
he wasn't an exploitable part of the roster.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like you do have to have someone in there that cannot get crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get crushed, then you're a problem, right? Like you have to be able to bend, not break. Yeah. So we'll see. You know, I'm not gonna like just 100% change everything that I think and say. Like it's gonna take actual evidence, actual, you know, data, a lot of games to see what actually happens with that. But I think for right now, I'm feeling fine with where we are in that situation.
Yeah. My sense is that he's capable enough on the picks you need to be capable at to be kind of ban proof to a certain degree. And that's an overly generous sounding word to apply here, ban proof. But basically what I'm getting at is, okay, so let's say you ban out some of the strong meta semi-global champs. You leave him with an Orianna who he showed he's very effective on, right? And can play. So I think if we put in reps on the non-semi-global compositions, and it's not that we don't know how to play with the standard control mage, and I think we're going to be fine, right? And then you get your pick of the bunch for whatever you want, top side or bot, and we know that that's going to serve us well. So yeah, we'll see. It's early. We'll see. But right now, like, hey, I think we have a lot of confidence that we can be leaving week one with regarding Damonte specifically, but a lot of people as well. So there's good signs all around. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, we managed to jump into some general topics without talking much about this game. I don't think, you know, going into this, we weren't planning on focusing super hard on any three of these games, but I do want to call out what happened with level 1 and then what we did with it, because that is, you know, what some of the things you're looking for early for your team. Like we pointed out, you want to see signs. Preparation is one of them. You want to see synergy. You want to see game plan. You want to see attitude, right? And what happened in level 1 of this game in the bot lane was that, you know, TL pulled a little something tricky with their skills and caught us totally with our pants down, right? So did we give over both bot laners, or was it just FBI? Okay. Yep. So he escapes, but it's almost instant kill onto FBI when we had a wave in a position where we were like, all right, cool, we're going to kind of zone him off and force him back. Yeah. We got punched in the mouth, man. And
used both his summoners to get out, to try to get out.
Right. And so look, if that's me in my solo queue games,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like play cowardly for the rest of the match. They did the opposite, right? They said, okay, all right. And they
Yeah.
sent closer in for not one, but two different dives out of the bot lane
Right.
to
Right.
make sure that that was not going to happen. And
Early
this
too.
is the bot lane that, I mean, so basically it's us, C9 and TL for bot lane, right? Like
Yeah.
those are the bot lanes. And Core JJ is absolutely no joke. This dude is so unbelievably good. And to go back there and have the boldness to just assert dominance in the bot lane after what happened was, if I had to point to the single most encouraging thing I saw this weekend, that's what it would have been.
Right.
I loved that they didn't just roll over and take that.
Yeah. Well, they treated it like what it was, right? It was a level 1 play. And so they hit level 2 and they're like, all right, well, what's your level 2 play? Oh, ours is better, right? Closer's here. He's on Olaf. They weren't even all level 3 yet, and they were orchestrating a tower dive, right?
Yeah.
That pulled out, I think, at least it was an even trade in kills, and I believe we got 2 extra TPs for it. So, it's just like the willingness to go back and respond, and not just, turtle up, try to farm it out. Okay, Samira is super strong and she's got a kill. Like, well, let's play it safe. No. They went back to shut it down right away. And yeah, they just continue to punish. So yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, and I think that is what speaks to what we were talking about with CLG a little bit too, right? Like, here's a carry who gets popped. And it would be, I think, really easy for a carry to say, well, guys, if I'm going to hope to win us fights, I gotta hit 300 CS, right? Like, that's our win condition now. Get me farm, protect me, let me do my thing, and I'll call you in 20 minutes. And he said the opposite, right? He's like, yeah, we're gonna fight in this lane. I can beat him. I'm confident in this, and he was right. So I think this is a perfect illustration of exactly what we saw in the CLG game. And in this, the difference in this game was the team was ready to back him up, and they're always ready, but they were able to, right? Like, we had the team comp that he needed to build that lead, and just basically start to punish them, and it all kind of unraveled from there, right? And it was not a one-person show. Like, everybody showed up in big ways and important ways. Someday too, man. We have not talked much about Someday at all, but him getting zoned off that wave was huge, and he played it safe. He had a couple of really close ones against Alfari, who was an absolute monster.
Alfari was going off, man. He looked great.
He was. He's going to be a scary opponent, and he's going to be a lot of fun to watch when he's not playing against us. But yeah, I'll let you take it where you want to go next, but I couldn't be more happy with. It's kind of nice to see us get hit in the face early. It's the same thing with our Valorant team, right? Like, how many times have those guys showed the grit to stay in a game where they could have otherwise folded,
Yeah, that's a good point. And I, of all the characteristics I would want my teams to have, that would be near the top of the list, So,
yep.
I was actually curious. I'm gonna see if I can look this up right now on the fly, what our record is against Team Liquid over the last stretch here. Because we got the dub. Let's see, we dropped Summer Game 2, we dropped Summer Game 1. And yeah, no, actually, so yeah, before this, we lost 3 in a row to TL. So it feels good, to be breaking that cycle a little bit.
Yeah.
We did get a very memorable win against them in spring of last year. But I'm going to keep my eye on this. I think Team Liquid has proven to be just a really quality team. Like, their recent history is that they're going to be fairly consistent. I know they had a weird split in spring. But we can expect them to be like a good test every time we play them. We passed the test this week. So
and let's be fair, they will be better the next time we play them, right? They will have Santorin. They will have time to play together. So let's not, pronounce this rivalry won. But But there's a lot of stuff that happened in isolation of that piece being different that I think we can feel really strongly about. Not least of all is the draft, right?
Yeah.
Like that Lulu pick, going back to where we started, that made a difference. It made a huge difference in how this game went. Somebody on the team, Huhi, Zix, combination of all of them, like that was a smart change to make that really ended up making a big difference.
Yeah. And this is lock-in where, and this will transition us out of games. What we're going to do, we're going to talk a couple general topics, then we're going to do listener takes, and then we'll wrap. But this is lock-in, and there's no clear consensus yet on what we expect for how teams will treat this. One of the things that was posited was that teams would maybe be trying out new strats, new picks, whatever. Like just try things because there's not like a whole lot of meaning to who actually wins this thing. And what happens with that, it's like one of two ways, right? You try things and it does not work. And so you kind of stay in your lane more throughout the year, or you try some things, you have success with it, and that emboldens you to keep doing that through the split when it matters. And
right.
if we have a repeat of what happened this weekend, we're going to be in that latter category, which is where we want to be, where we're feeling strong enough to change up our picks, to pull out the Twisted Fate, to pull out the Lulu, to do those things. So I'm super pumped that it's gone that way for us so far. I want team management to feel like we can do more of that.
Yeah.
And it makes more exciting League of Legends. So I think that's a dub all the way around.
Right.
So yeah, just in general, how like LCS lock-in, how are we feeling about this? This is a new tournament. It's a new event, new broadcast look, new aesthetic.
Yeah.
What's your take?
I mean, I think it's as good as they could have possibly hoped for, to be honest with you. Like, and we haven't even got to the best of series, right? It's just going to get more fun from here. I think there's something that's very freeing about, it's always, so let's say that we take these games and put them into week 1 of the LCS split, right? Summer or spring split. You start to already panic as a fan if you have an 0-2 weekend to start it off. We've been there. It sucks. It is a horrible feeling. And you just start to wonder, like, is it going to be one of those splits? Now I'm sure CLG is not feeling great, but it's not on their permanent record, right? They get to try this again in a few weeks. So I think it's fantastic. It's a nice chance for the teams to kind of figure out who they are, build some identity, try some things. And I would even say, we shouldn't discount the possibility that against CLG, we saw them lose badly in game 1. Maybe we decided to try something in game 2, right? Like maybe this was one of those things we tried in scrims a few times that hadn't always worked, but we're giving it a shot because the stakes are just lower. And I think that makes for better teams overall. Like, I think it gives the teams more opportunity to figure out how they want to play when the spring split starts. And you're not trading in week 1 of the spring split to basically run that same experiment, or week 2, 3. Like by the time we finish the lock-in, we'll have played a good number of games, which is super exciting. And I think what it means for the league is that we're going to have better teams overall once we actually start, assuming they can get their players all able to play. That won't help if they're still running subs, but I think it's great. And viewership seems strong. Like, I think from a league standpoint, they're super happy, I'm guessing. So yeah, I'm all about it. It's been a great time. I love watching it, man. It was a blast.
Yeah. And I think, as you were alluding to, when we are post-COVID, and teams can get together much more easily. This will be an especially fun tournament to watch. Right now, I mean, what we've seen is that it's unpredictable, especially day one. Day one was crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Day one, very little went as expected. In fact, there might not have been a game that really went with the favorite in that day one. But yeah, it's like that. What I said earlier was that it seems more serious than I predicted it would be. I know that there are players that are saying, this is just lock in, like, we're not taking it that seriously. I don't get that feeling though. Like it doesn't feel like, like when G2 was getting destroyed at Worlds, you could see them not like you could see that they were out of it and they were just like playing and not really caring at the end, right? You can't see that with what's going on now. Like, I don't know. It feels like the teams are at least trying. It oddly enough, having the subs in and stuff may make things a little more serious because those players are like, hey, this is LCS, right? Yeah, they're doing, and some of them have looked really good. And then I think what you're saying, the fans have bought into it, which has made it fun. Like it feels to me like real League of Legends, and so I've really enjoyed it, and I think they will almost certainly keep it for next year, and it'll be a nice addition to the format.
Yeah. Here's another thing. I think that if you're on a team that is serious, right? Like if you have team management who takes this seriously, like what coach, you and I have played on traditional sports teams in the past, what coach would look at this and say like, hey guys, have some fun, goof off a little bit, make them fun games, happy games, guys. No, they're thinking about how to fine tune their squad before you actually get into the games that count against your record. Right. So I think that's everybody looks at the prize at the end of the tournament and says, well, 150,000, but you got to get 50,000 away. It's not a huge deal. It's not, the players aren't going to care about that. But what the players do care about is what's your spring split record, right? And do you have a banner? And if you feel like you snooze through lock-in and basically start behind everybody else who took it seriously, you have played yourself, right? So I think that's probably a little bit more.
You played yourself.
I think that's probably a little bit more of what is motivating people in some ways is, this is the test run, and you don't want to go up against 100 Thieves in week 2 and just miss out on the opportunity to try to beat them, right? Like we know what their style is now. We know what they're going to bring. What would we play against them? We play them in week 2. Test run for that. How are we going to try to beat them then? I think if you miss that opportunity, you're not playing this smart.
Yeah. Going back to your traditional sports analogy or your reference, where it did remind me of a particular soccer coach that we had in high school. And we had an opening tournament against cupcake teams. Right. And so it was kind of like a preseason thing because no matter what, we were going to destroy them. But like he made us take that thing seriously. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't set the right tone, like you were done, and so
you'd be benched, right? Yeah. Like you would not play in the opening game.
And it's probably not quite to that level for, for people in the LCS, but guys. But there is an element of it.
Yeah. If you show up not having put in your reps, you're going to look like a fool. So
you're going to get traded, James Harden. Okay, let's really quick. I wanted to talk. So the 100 Thieves jersey was revealed and dropped and sold since our last podcast. So I did want to do a quick bit on that. Do you want to start with your take before you hear mine, or how do you want to do it?
You lead us off. You're apparel master.
Okay, so quick comments on it. First off, the drop itself was very smooth. It's gotten better. Like I think like pretty much every drop has been better than the last one. I will say that perhaps demand was down a little bit this time because things stayed in stock for longer than I expected. Like even the custom name ones were in stock for a while, which was pretty unusual. I thought they would disappear quite rapidly. But I thought it was a well done drop. The jersey itself is different. Okay. It is different. And there are several things to think about with that. I gotta say, like, it's almost like an inverted take on some of the things I've said in the past, because it's a departure from what we're doing, like in the past. Like the past few, so we had the baseball jersey in 2018, which was sick, right? Like everybody, like universal acclaim iconic on that jersey, right? And I mean, I still think the other jerseys we've done have been great. Like I really like them. Like they were different from each other. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
But this one feels very different because it was a definite design risk, I think,
Yeah.
that they took. I would say I'm not super in love with the design, like myself. You can see that they kind of like bridged the gap from the Jam Collection drop
Mhm.
with the look of this thing. With like the colors, right? Like remember the gradient that we're seeing?
Yep.
That kind of showed back up, and that's okay. You know, that they're doing that. I didn't particularly care for the gradient or the colors, but at the same time, I wanted them to incorporate some kind of different color than they've done before. So it's like while I'm not loving it myself, I feel like this is still the right thing.
Mhm.
And so I've been happy with it from that sense. I don't think it's super special quality wise. I think it's fine. For the price point, it's fine. It's not mind blowing. I think the 2019 jersey quality overall was just a little bit better. This feels to be pretty much the same as the 2020 jersey quality. But that's without actually holding it. But you know, you can kind of get a feel for it from some of the detail shots that we've seen, that I think it's basically like the same kind of material and everything.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the little lines? The design.
lines.
Yeah.
I mean, here are the things I picked up on. This is my much less informed perspective. One, it does create kind of a group effect when you line all the players up. I think it's just kind of interesting, right? Because we do that group shot for all of our sports, so it looks different when you have a bunch of people standing in a row. I think it's interesting. This is the first jersey I think we've done without any kind of pattern, right? Like the 2019 long sleeve had the snake print.
Mm-hmm.
2020 had the lines
Yeah.
design. This is the first jersey we've done with a lot of kind of solid space, right? Like black. It's black. So it's different. It's different for sure. I don't know if I get it. I'll say, like, I don't know if I entirely understand what it's meant to represent, or like what the connection is to our brand identity. Which, you know, it's a departure in that way for sure. Yeah. So, you know, I think I will get it. My hope is that they release a short sleeve, because I'd like to add another.
It's going to be better in short sleeve for sure. I think GLD Top in our Discord said that, and I was like, yeah, that's totally on point. It will definitely look better as a short sleeve.
Mm-hmm. And the players are wearing a short sleeve, right? Like
were they? I didn't even realize that. Yeah,
I think so. I think in the video that they all had short sleeve on. If I saw them wearing short sleeve somewhere. I know it exists.
Not the video for the jersey reveal, but
no. Oh no, it's their player pictures. Their player pictures are wearing short sleeve.
Oh yeah. Holly's pointing out, Nate Shot specifically mentioned there's like a bunch of multiple iterations of this, so I think it'll follow probably something similar to last year, but maybe they'll get more creative with them. I'll say this: the one thing that for me is, because like I don't love the design, but like I'm fine with it. Like it's like, okay, this is not my personal taste, but like I said, at least they're trying something different. They're moving forward, and I appreciate that. And some people like it, so I'm not objectively critical about that. There's one thing I think you could be really objectively critical about, and that is that the logos are too big on this thing, and that. So I think like natural evolution, right? Keeping the sponsors happy. There's going to be sponsors who give more and support more. You're going to want to give them more recognition. Some sponsors are probably going to get moved off the jersey, which I think we've seen. I'm not going to call it out specifically. But it's like, you know what I mean? It's like Cash App obviously puts in a ton of money to 100 Thieves. So they want to have a huge Cash App logo on the jersey. Okay. We've gone too far, I think. All the logos, except for the JBL on the back, I would shrink literally all of them, and I would even shrink the 100 Thieves. I think, like, if you just cleaned it up in that way, like just shrink everything down, it's a little less loud, a little more empty space in it, it would feel much better to me. So, like, I'm looking at the AT&T who just came on, so I get it. Like I said, I get it. I do sponsorships as part of my job. Like, I get it. AT&T, and Cash App especially, like those two, just shrink them down, man.
Yeah.
I think it would look much better. But you know, I think like we're iterating in a positive way, and I wouldn't be surprised if like color becomes a thing for this set of jerseys. So
Like if we have the same solid, like instead of solid black, like solid teal,
or maybe
solid,
not, or maybe just the accent color is different. You know, maybe like the lines or whatever.
That could make some real pop to it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, right? Or is it variations on the design, right? Like they could do all kinds of stuff. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. One thing I was going to add is, the TSM jerseys they look very bad. I don't know if you saw them. I strongly dislike the way they look. And on your point about the partners, right? Like the sponsorship piece, I think TSM has Cadillac on the front of theirs. You would not be able to tell without a close inspection. So, like,
yeah, there's a medium, yes.
Yeah, I think you got to play it right, and in that sense, we've done well by our partners, but some of the jerseys out there, man, make you wonder. So,
yeah,
for that fact, I'm glad that we at least have a clean look that is visually recognizable as belonging to our team. Whereas I think some of them just you can't even understand what is on it.
Yeah. I want us to be a leader, in the visuals, and with some things we definitely see that with TL copying our schedule posts and TSM copying our schedule posts and stuff like that. But I want us to move things forward with jersey and apparel design. So, gonna support that. All right, let's do some listener takes and then get on out of here, Jordan.
Sounds good to me.
I'm going to start with Early Luke. At Early Luke says, how do you think we will fare when it comes to putting away worse teams? As in, we might have the potential to beat top teams, but might struggle beating teams like CLG, Golden Guardians, or Dignitas like we saw this weekend. So the old play to the level of your competition thing. Where are you at on this? After
fully
3 games.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you how it's going to go. Now, I fully expect that as the split goes, we will punish teams that we should be beating. Like, I think that the skill gap is going to be. So, I mean, to go back to CLG, right? Like, they are out. They are the 5th best team in our group, and they will not make it out. A bit hard to do, to not make it out of groups when 4 out of 5 make it out of groups. But they've accomplished that. So, but the individual players, like I think.
Wait, hold on. Is that decided yet?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh,
mathematically, because even if they win out, they are 1-2. They would be tied for record with Golden Guardians. CLG.
They're 1-3. Yeah, they played 4th game. Okay, gotcha. All right, cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I think a lot of the worst teams in the league, like the lower tier teams, is what I'm saying. They are comprised of players who are just not as good as our players. And I think that we will be able to see us exploit that piece in ways that are going to make it very, very hard for those teams to beat us. Like, I think someday we'll punish opponents this season. I think FBI will do the same. So I think that will be one of the things that prevents us to dropping some of these games that we really shouldn't be. Not all of them. Like, there will be, but I don't think that we'll get into the habit of losing to teams that are on paper worse than us.
I'm out on this. I'm not sure where I land. I haven't seen enough. I will watch to see. I think, Jordan, your answer is pretty good, but I will watch to see how that happens. I'm going to bookmark that take.
All right.
Let's go to Karlski01, who said...
That means it's a good take, by the way. Well done. Early.
Karlski01 says, you quite often see that new rosters can start slow but ramp up in summer and hit their peak for playoffs. With already existing chemistry, are you worried that there isn't as much room for growth, and instead of ramping up, this team could potentially fall off towards the end of the year? Which is something we talked a little bit about earlier, right? When we were tracing the trajectory of this team. I'm not So the thing about growth is that like it's not the same team still. And it's very similar, right? We've got 80% of the same team returning. But when you switch out a top laner for someday, like it's just materially different, you know? So it's hard for me to feel like, oh no, like they've already got like all the, you know, synergy that they need. They've already got the chemistry that they need. And it won't get better because it's like I think they display an obvious like sense of chemistry, which is great, and it should still get better. So I see what you're saying, and I acknowledge that we do seem to see that. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like the case for this year that this team is already like got enough of that or got as much of that as they're going to get. And as Papa Smithy's mentioning in chat, different coaching staff, different ideas. That's going to play a big factor too.
Yeah. I was going to make sure we mentioned that. Damonte mentioned that in his interview.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to that, right? And it's not looked at as much as it probably could be by fans, because I think a lot of what coaching staffs do in the LCS is it's not apparent to fans. But I mean, we have a very solid coaching staff, and we've seen them do good work. Here's the other thing. We've not seen, so you talk about players like Someday, perfect example, right? Early in the season, we heard a lot this weekend. Zell's been hitting this hard. He's been one of the best top laners, and when he came over to the LCS, he was probably one of the best top laners in the world. And there's this long-running sense that he's just not had the opportunity to really show what he can do because he's not had the supporting cast around him. And the same is absolutely true for coaching staff, right? Our coaching staff spent a lot of last season trying to find ways to compensate for things that were preventing us from being successful. The equation has changed. The name of the game now is maximizing success, right? There's no spot on this roster where you'd point and you'd say, coach has got to figure that out. And if they don't, we know where this goes, right? It's not there. So I think Zix, Jungle Juice, Kai, Freeze, our news coach, Freeze.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like those guys have a different job this year than they did last year. And I'm excited to see what they can do. Like this is not really something we've seen our coaching staffs.
Oh yeah. And Lustboy. We forgot about Lustboy too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. New, a lot of new names. This is not something we've seen, right? So I'm super excited to see what they can do. Like it's up to them to, as I talked about earlier, take advantage of this head start we have and make the most of it. We'll see if they're up to the task. Early sense is that they are. Like, I was a little bit concerned that we were going to come out not quite gelled, right? Because of Someday. I'm not concerned about that now after 3 games only, but like clearly the strengths are still there from the previous roster. What else can we add to it?
Yeah. And the final take we'll do tonight is from @It's Isaiah 19, who is basically rewording my off-season take about mid lane. Okay. So let's go over that real quick. He says, hot take, yeah. I don't think we can win a split with Damonte as our mid laner. As seen last year on GG in the playoffs, teams just banned out roaming champs and he was pretty underwhelming after. Look at the best teams over the years. They all had top-tier mid laners like Rookie, Doing B, Showmaker. We need an import mid laner, in my opinion. @It's Isaiah 19. I hear you. I'm with you. This is my yearly reminder. We need to give everybody a chance, though. And if week 1 showed us anything, well, this isn't week 1, pre-week 1, whatever you want to call it, but week 1 of this tournament shows us anything, it's that Damonte deserves the chance. He played pretty well, man. He played pretty well. He played above what I expected from him. And we cannot, like we have what we have right now. And I think in general, you're right. But again, we've got 2 pressure points on the opposite side of the map. The team looks pretty good. So let's not rush to that conclusion. Let's give it a fair college try. That's where I'm at with this one. In general, I feel you, man. I'm saying this publicly though. I'm willing to watch this play out. I'm willing.
I would expect no less, Cole. Look, this is the time where we remind everybody. Cole and I didn't decide on Ryoma until basically the end of the split, last split, right? We gave him a lot of time to see what he could do. And we didn't give him time because we like him, although we do. We didn't give him time because we think it'd be cool if it worked out. We did. We gave him time because we didn't know, right? And I think that's the responsible thing to do. Is what you don't want to do is you don't want to make snap judgments. You don't want to act based on what you've seen in the past. These are all valid points of attention, right? Like just because we're not ready to say, like, I think at the end of the split, Damonte is likely to be our weak point, or I'm not saying that. Just because we're not saying that doesn't mean that I can't remember where I was going with that, but it's you just got to give him time. And right now, all signs point to yes, right? Like he should keep going, and we should keep rooting for him. Personally, I think I'll be interested to see if he can continue to play at this level. Like, it's not just that he's passable; he's doing very well. So it's encouraging early on. We'll see. I already gave my piece about kind of what I think about his target banning him, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's early and we've got some time to give him for sure. He's earned it already. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. We've got Rec League coming up on Thursday. So if you guys want to play in some League of Legends 5v5 customs casted by Jordan and I, please sign up. Look for the sign up. We'll tweet it out on Wednesday. We'll tweet out the sign up form on Wednesday. Nickel Polka is sponsoring this week. It should be really fun. And then we've got more LCS games. Soon CDL is starting. We don't have a fixed coverage plan for CDL, but you guys know how much we love the Call of Duty squad, and so we will figure something out. Yeah. So looking like an exciting time to be a 100 Thieves fan, not gonna lie. Can we turn the tides? Yeah. Is this it? Is this it? Is this the year of 100 Thieves esports? I don't know.
It could be. 2021 could be our year, Cole. Hopefully there's some pivotal moment late in 2021. They're going to need us to bring the buff, and we are fully vaccinated and protected, and we bring the buff.
We'll answer the call. That's what we do. Your dads will answer the call. God darn it. All right. Let's wrap up. We'll host Travis. Everybody, thanks for being here this week with us. Welcome to the new season. Let's have fun with it. As always, we love you and we miss you already.
Take care.
Stick around for the raid. We're raiding Travis. And that one was for Drek.
Good to see everybody in chat.
There we go. All right. Raid is on. Let's do it, everybody.
It's not on.
Let's roll.